Oh god, where am I?
Hello, Laura.
What? Who's that? What's going on?
I want to play a game.
Oh god.
You've heard of, soul traps, right?
Yeah. Though I'm looking around, I'm seeing a lot less like a bear trap that's gonna go but the other opposite way than I would expect. What are you gonna do? Am I getting dipped in acid? Unless I what is this?
You have 30 minutes to accept a compliment without deflection. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you that you've caused me a minor inconvenience in front of all your friends, and they'll nod and agree and say that it sounds very much like something you do. Live or die, play the game.
Oh god, this really shouldn't be so hard. Okay, just give me a compliment and I'll just not deflect.
You're very kind.
Oh no, you're much kind. Oh god, okay, try again.
You're a good and wonderful person and you deserve nice things.
I believe that you believe that. Does that count?
We're gonna be here a while. Remember, I'll be really disappointed.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet-Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet-Dale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types, have a bit of a catch-up about media we've consumed in the week, things we've played, watched and listened to.
Nothing from a struck company.
While companies are on strike, we're avoiding talking about their stuff. But we also do silly voices and skits and just have a bit of a silly catch-up.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm sleepy. I'm a sleepy little bean. How are you?
I'm a sleepy little bean too. I feel like 90% of episodes of this show, it's like, how are you doing? Sleepy little bean. Like that's usually where we're at.
I mean, it's a Tuesday.
Tuesdays are sleepy days.
Tuesdays are sleepy days.
You've only just gotten back into the work week. It's like, oh, I'm here.
It's not like Monday's a short day for us either.
No.
It's like up early, do a full day of various works.
Work through the evening.
Then, you stream, I edit video.
Yeah. Well, we should talk about some things we did in the week. What have you been playing this week?
Well, we had a bumper board gaming session. We talk about that.
We did. We had a board gaming weekend. We sure did. Yeah, where do you want to start?
I was going to start with the 11 hours of Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
We sure did play 11 hours of Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Probably a little less than 11 hours. There was arriving at friend's house and also we stopped for food, but basically a full day of Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
Yeah.
We talked about this before when we started playing Pandemic Legacy Season 2 with this group of friends.
So Legacy Season 2 takes the pandemic thing of there are 4 different viruses. They are appearing around the world, and you are trying to act as a medical team who is struggling for funding while the world is falling apart. And at every point, you are trying to remove cubes from the board of various colours and stop outbreaks and stop various things. And plot happens around that we won't spoil.
Yeah. Season
2 is that all happened 71 years ago, and now the world is very, very different. But now there's these people, us, our characters. They live on these floating cities, I guess. Maybe not even a city, but floating places on the oceans around the world. And for 71 years, they have kept supplies going to the mainland and protected all the people on the mainland, but been constantly mobbed by these unknown enemy called the Hollow Men, who just constantly seem to be destroying supplies. You assume for stealing and so forth.
Yeah.
And rumour has it that you're running out of everything and you're not going to be able to keep supplying to people. And all your leaders have vanished, so good luck.
So a couple of things about our sort of big session of this that we played this week. First of all, I really do think Season 2 is harder with 4 players.
100%.
Very
specific. We walked Season 2.
Yeah. So, look, let's say you're playing base Pandemic with 4 players.
Yep.
You have you have a bit of a disadvantage with 4 players, given that you have, you've got longer to get around to each person's turn, and if you've only got one person in a zone that needs their turn to come back around, you've got to draw a lot of infection cards before it gets back to them. But that's sort of balanced a bit by the fact that right from the beginning of regular Pandemic, you have the option to make, like, your fast travel routes to fly between bases. You start with pretty significant character abilities that are significant enough to kind of compensate for the 4 players.
Yes, plus as like the first couple of months start to tick down, you are getting less and less supplies.
Well, this is what I was going to say, is specifically talking Legacy Season 2, you don't start off with as significant a set of character buffs.
No.
Or that same level of ability to ping around the board.
No.
And those things, along with, like, resources dwindling and the fact that because everything is a little bit spaghetti junction until you've, like, connected parts of the board up,
yes,
it can be that 4 turns of potentially waiting of, like, we're going to have to draw, like, 8 cards out of the infection deck before that person who's in the right place comes around again, is a lot bigger of a deal compared to, say, 2-player when we played it together, where, like, at most you're going to be drawing, like, 4 infection cards before that person can sort of pivot back to where they need to be. I really like Season 2's everything gets worse, and then suddenly you start getting some ability to fight back. Like, that's those elements of the pacing I really enjoy. You
are rewarded for your hard work for things like searching places or expanding the map by doing reconnaissance work. Or, although it, like, constantly seems a danger to be putting more things onto the grid, as it's called, which is basically your complete, like, list of supply lines. You are kind of rewarded for that, and that, I think, also serves to the main thing that I am constantly saying with this game of you need to split up, take, like, an area that is going to be yours, and focus on keeping just your little bit. Because as tempting as it is to bunch up and go, but if we meet up, I can hand you this card, and I can hand you that card, and I can hand you that card.
It's worth doing sometimes in situations where it's like, I can give you enough cards in one turn to get you, like, the supply center you're trying to build.
Yeah.
But, and we had a few games where we did do a really good job of handling that. But yes, I do feel like this game does perhaps a better job than Season 1 of everything, like, really, really going to shit in a way that feels a little insurmountable, and then suddenly you just touch that one thing on the map that uncovers something, and suddenly it's like, oh, we have options. Everything feels a lot more possible suddenly.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's quite good now is we have unlocked, like, a new mechanic, or 2 new mechanics in the last couple of games. One of them we have not even touched.
Yes.
And in the last couple of games I was like, I'm going to try and start setting up a thing, and then we had some problems with some other stuff, and all of a sudden that whole plan kind of blew up in my face.
Yeah.
And although we won that game, we did have to go from, okay, well, you know what, we're gonna try and set ourselves up for the best possible end to this, because we're a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
And we've got a little bit of time. And then... I think it went all the way around the table maybe once, maybe 1.5 times before it did blow up on us. But it absolutely did blow up on us. It was like,
yes.
Okay, we were holding out on ending this. We need to end this fucking now.
And we had a few... And again, I really like Pandemic's pacing, and I think Legacy, both Season 1 and 2, capture this as well really well, which is that whole... So many games end up being we're on one turn either side of winning or losing. Like, we had a few matches where we were, like, counting around the table going, if we can get back round to Jane... and Jane's turn, we can win, and then the card's being drawn at the end of the prior player's turn, just about to get to Jane, and we die. Or, oh god, we're down to 1 incident, okay, we got back to that player, okay, we win. That nail-biting pacing Pandemic has always been really good at, like, no matter which version you're playing, that seems to always be the pace.
I think in 4-player it has been way better paced for that level of tension, because I don't think we lost a single game of Legacy Season 2 when we were playing 2-player.
Yeah.
And of 6 games we played on Sunday, we won 4 of them.
Yeah, in 2-player, again, I think the biggest difference is you are a lot more able to pivot. Fewer incident cards get drawn before you have a chance to backtrack and go be putting out a different fire. And that is helpful, particularly in the early stages before you can hop around quickly. But yeah, I'm enjoying this as much this time as I did the first time.
Yeah.
It's been really fun to have an excuse to go back through this.
Also, the fact that it's been like 3 years since we played it has been like... I know when we got through Season 1, it was still really fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
And there was a lot in my mind of, like, I don't want to say anything because I remember a lot of the big twists in it, and I remember a lot of the stuff. So what I tried to do to keep it as fair to the other players as possible was... I'm just going to try and remember what my gut instincts were from that first game and just recreate my reactions from that.
Yeah.
And whereas with this one, it's been so long, I have genuinely forgotten a lot of it.
There's one mechanic that I think I remember what it does, and I'm not certain, but I'm like... I tried to do the thing you were just describing of... Go with what my gut was, the last time around, as best I can. If a mechanic seems too good to be true, but you need it in certain situations, you roll with your feelings and see how it plays out.
Oh, if you're talking about the mechanic, I think you're talking about, not only do I think I vaguely remember the thing, but from a purely maths point of view, it makes sense doing what I have been doing that others necessarily haven't.
I think you are right to be doing so, but again, I'm trying to play it the way the way I did the first time.
Yeah. But if anyone asks me, I have been. I have.
You've
I was
given
asked
your-
a couple of times, like, why would you do the thing? Why have you
You've
done
given
this
your
thing?
logic.
I was like, well, based on this rule that is changing certain aspects of the game, it makes sense mathematically to have
Improve our
this
odds
deck
of getting the good things.
skewed as possible in these directions.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been really nice to have an excuse to get back to this.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to have one of Pandemic Legacy, and Season 2 in particular, really does have that, just one more game. we were playing with a pair of people who were very sleepy.
Yes.
We brought some other games and they were like, we're probably a little too sleepy to learn something new. So we were expecting maybe cut it off by 6 and head home so they can have an early night. And at like 10 o'clock it's like, we've got to finish the month though.
Yep.
It was a good solid gaming day that.
It really was. And well done to our hosts for staying awake that long after one of them had literally zero sleep the night before.
They did admirably.
Well done. I'm very impressed. But had a good time going through that again and enjoying how cleanly can we put stickers on this board where the stickers are. Fucking massive.
We have a friend who has been putting those stickers on very well. Very impressed by that sticker placement.
Oh, yes.
Do we want to talk about other board game bits while we're here?
Talk about some other things. So you got your first playthrough of Expeditions, a sequel to Scythe.
Yes, which we talked about this the other week because you played it for the first time.
Last week?
Yes, so this board game, we've talked about Scythe before. It is that big war game with the sort of I was going to say steampunk mechs. I don't think
it's dieselpunk. 1920 plus. It's an alternate. A different weirdness happened in World War One.
Yes.
It was fought with mechs.
Big multiple hours sort of war game. Expeditions, as you probably said last week, it does a really good job of capturing the vibe of Scythe in something much more mechanically simple and less time committee to jump into.
Yeah.
It does a good job of simplifying its mechanics, but feeling tonally similar, but not just feeling like mini Scythe. It has its own stuff going on.
Yeah, and even with the number of components, because rather than having a set board, It has these hexagonal tiles that you place out. Obviously, they're all shuffled, so they're in different locations every time, but there is this is the layout you do, and this is how you go around it. Yeah. And despite that, I still think it is easier to set up and tear down than Bayside.
Yeah. I like the randomness from how the hexes are set up, but that it's randomness within brackets, where it's like, we're going to randomize all of the low-level areas, randomize all the mid-level areas, randomize all the high-level areas, and have them in their sort of areas as you get deeper into the map.
Yeah.
I like the twist on sides mechanic, where sides thing is you have your 4 things you can choose on a turn on a board, and you put the thing on to go, I'm doing this, and I can't do that next turn. And this is sort of the inverse, where you have 3 options, and you cover one up and can't do that this turn, but you do the other 2.
Yes.
And you can't not do the same action twice in a row. You can't cover the same action twice.
Yeah.
Which... It's very similar, but it's slightly different in way. It feels like it would be easier to choose, but in some ways it's harder because of how you have to start forward thinking.
Yeah, especially
what you block in future.
Those, because obviously this is the first time I had played against a real person. I'd played a couple of games against the Automa, and obviously I'd played a 2-hander on my own, and I hadn't seen the engine building of this pop off quite as well as I did in the game we played together. I had one, it was just this turn just spiraled because a confluence of things.
You did have a 3 or 4 minute long, and this happened, and then that activates that, and that activates that.
Yes.
And I had a few, this area activates that area, which activates this area, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a few little synergies going.
Yeah, it was really fascinating. I played a character I'd not done before. I played as Vesna, who I was going to say something about Scythe, but I'm not going to because it's related to something secret. So, but I like that. Obviously, you've got the player boards, or the mech boards, I should say, which are shuffled, and you get randomly dealt one, or you randomly pick one. Those mechs each have a mini associated with them and a very specific power that only applies to them. One can move up to 1 extra space than any of the others. One can tuck one of each type of tuckable thing, be it extra quests or upgraded items or melded meteorite pieces. One can... What was your one? You had an interesting one for yours. I can't remember what yours was.
My person-generated red workers, which I could put the red worker on my wolf.
No, the mech, the board.
Oh, the mech. I forget now. Yeah. Sorry, it's been days.
It has, but all 5 of the base mechs, they're not associated to a particular colour. So if you always tend to play blue, which makes sense. So you can just go, okay, well I've dealt the thing out, and rather than going, yes, but the blue. If I'm not playing the blue faction, I'm going to struggle to remember where I am on the board. With this, it's I was dealt the thing, and then I took the blue snap-on base, and that is my colour, and that has nothing to do with then being randomly dealt a character. So between randomly dealing characters, randomly dealing out the setup positions for obviously the southern, central, and northern regions, and then the randomness of the fucking deck being as it is.
Yeah.
And also I just like that there is just one deck that you shuffle, and that's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about there's the quests and the combat cards and everything else that you get in base side. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love that game.
Yeah, but it's a commitment.
It is a bit more of a commitment, and I think it is a very different puzzle.
Yes.
It doesn't feel quite as much of an engine builder as this.
Yeah.
Because to call base side a war game is not entirely correct, but also
it's the most correct I can think of.
Yeah, there's obviously some area control and some move selection, as we talked about. There's resource management. There's There's cards, there's money management, there's strategy around, obviously, your popularity and your fucking power rankings. How you, like, there's a whole bluffing mechanic with the fucking fighting aspect. Is pretty fucking, there's pretty fucking in-depth.
Yeah.
In a good way. But yeah, I'm very much enjoying Expeditions. Very glad to be trying it out in more players. Hopefully we'll get to try like 4 and more players soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Have you played anything else?
Are we, do we want to talk about the other board game thing we played?
We played some Spirit Island together.
Yes, it's that game about being sort of spirits trying to drive all the invading white people off of an island. Yep. I think we've talked about this before.
I think we talked about this last week or the week before.
We played this years ago, when we were early to board games, and it was a lot to start with.
It was, and also, like, I didn't know all the stuff about, like, read the errata, read this, read that, the other.
It feels a lot more manageable playing it this time around.
It really does, and I think it helps that also that I have been playing a lot of it recently in solo, that I can just sort of talk you through the important bits and also, like, run the, like, in-between our player turn bits really easily. And all you have to worry about is your own character. You played one of the low complexity ones, but we talked about the whole aspect system of, like now you know that character, maybe you could play that with just a slightly different aspect next time.
A summary of how the game went. I was the rivers pushing all the people towards the coast. You were the ocean pulling people in and drowning them. And right at the end, there was some people in a corner we were having trouble with. I murdered them with bears.
Yay! Bear murder.
It was a fun time.
It was a really fun time, and I really love playing as that combination. I think the last time we played together, we also played that combination.
It seemed like a sensible combo that had synergy.
Yeah, it's really fun because... And also, like, it's not a big problem for somebody playing a low complexity spirit to be playing with somebody with a moderate or even high complexity spirit, because you've only got to worry about what's on your own board.
Yeah.
So if somebody's like, well, I want something a bit crunchier, while you're getting on with your, like, slightly simpler, like, action choices, you've still got to pick, like, what card you're going to use and how you're going to use it and how you're going to strategize. And, you know, that's, you know, there's still plenty to be getting on with.
Yeah.
It's not a basic game, even at its most basic, because there's, you know, tons of strategy and forward planning and cooperation and trying to fill the gaps in each spirit's, like, what their strength and weaknesses are. Like, you had a lot of, was it control and attack, I think? Or control and movement, and I had a lot of fear and you had defense. I had a lot of attack and fear, and you had control and defense.
Yeah,
which worked out really nicely. But yeah, that was Spirit Island. But nice to be playing together somewhat.
Yeah.
What else? What have you played?
Oh, I played a wonderful, complex video game this week. That I'm going to talk minimally about because I don't want to spoil too much because it's fairly short. I played a game called Venba, which is maybe 2 hours long. Mm-hmm. It is a narrative-heavy game with some light cooking puzzle elements that I'll get to in a second, that tells the story of multiple decades of a family's life, but specifically a woman called Venba who moved to Canada from India with her husband, and Canada wasn't going great for them. They moved there in the late 80s. Venba finds out she's pregnant. They decide to stay in Canada to raise their kid there. And it is a story about the role that food plays in cultural tradition and in keeping a sense of cultural identity alive when you are far away from home or far away from the people you share community with, perhaps in a place that there aren't many other people for you to find that community with. Mechanically, it is, I would say, a puzzle game in that it is a cooking game where you have basically you've got Venba's mum's old recipe book. There's damage to it. There's bits that are missing. It's an old, very well-loved cooking book, and it is trying to follow the steps in the cookery book and from context work out, like, the things that are missing, what you need to be doing.
Yeah, and not just, I think, I mean, from what I saw, I only watched, like, the last 40 minutes or so of you playing this on stream, because I was busy. But that whole thing of, I wrote this cookery book for myself, not as something to pass on, and I know how this piece of equipment is used, or I know what I mean by this particular shortening of a term.
And it's sort of a mixture of things like trying to remember, like, oh, decades ago I remember cooking this with my mum. Like, what did we do? It was something like this, and it is very much about, like, cookery as experimentation and discovering culture through failure and trying again. And the puzzle element isn't there to stop you progressing. It is there to reinforce the nature of the sort of back and forth relationship you're having with these recipes and the person who wrote them.
And does how well you do with the recipes do anything to the narrative? Or?
Nope. It is just... There is very little punishment. It is experiment around until you make progress, and then the plot keeps going. There are some little branches narratively that don't change how it ultimately works out, but can let you focus in on finding out a bit more about certain aspects of how things play out. It's maybe 2 hours long. It is beautiful. It's heartwarming, heartbreaking. It's complicated. It is
like people.
It is messy in a very human way.
Yes.
The biggest compliment I can give this game, and its writing narratively, is there were a good 3 or 4 points in this where, like, something happened and it got me emotionally, and I had to stop and just, have some emotions for a second. And I'm not going to say it's easy to get that kind of response out of someone with, in storytelling, but it's easier to get that reaction when you do sort of a big, grand moment that's sort of deliberately aiming to get that response from you, I think. But those were never the moments in this that got me. It was always really small, subtle details, often ones that the game makes zero effort to point out to you. That you might be, like, 3 minutes into a scene and suddenly notice something...
I've drawn context from something.
Yeah. Like, without spoiling too much, I was, like, 3 minutes into a scene and realised, oh, that item of clothing has been a certain way in this scene. That tells me something about that scene 11 years ago that the game... And, like, the fact that it's still this way 11 years later... I've just got to stop for a second. Or that prop in the background in the back of the room tells me about a decision some character made off screen that, like, they didn't show it happening, but you can put the piece together and suddenly go, oh, that happened. And I think that takes a lot of trust in your audience to do. And those moments, and the fact that, like, I got a few minutes into a scene and suddenly noticed one in the middle of a conversation... was really special. As I sort of mentioned briefly there, one thing that, like, I played this on stream, and one thing that some people in chat didn't enjoy, I personally disagree, I think it's great, but I think it's worth noting, is that this game has some notable time skips in the way it tells its narrative. I personally think that the game makes great use of that. It doesn't stick around any one point in this story beyond first of all, it doesn't stick around if there's nothing new to tell you about these characters and their relationships at this point in their life. It jumps between the places where pivotal moments happen. But I also
think... Does it necessarily tell you that that's happening, or do you just have to sort of work
there
out?
There is a calendar on the wall, and a scene will start, and the calendar will have a new year on it, and you'll go, I guess we jumped forward this amount of time. But the thing, and I'm trying to work out how to say this in a spoiler-free way, the thing I think that this does really well is, because there are sometimes fairly significant jumps in time, it allows you to make assumptions about how character relationships might have changed or might have stayed the same, and it plays with those expectations to... It's sort of like with horror and comedy where you sort of set up an expectation and then either go with it or subvert it. this does a great job of that, where it's like, enough time has passed that things might be different from last time we saw. Are they different or are they the same?
Tension and release, is it a callback or is it like a bigger skew on that?
Is this a turning point or is this a reinforcement? And that, I think, is really effective. Again, I don't want to say too much more about it. It's beautiful. The soundtrack's gorgeous. The art style's wonderful. It is a beautiful, fascinating game. Go check it out. What about you? What you played this week?
I played the Wandering Village preview. There's the joy of Xbox Game Pass. They, rather than calling it like early access or anything, it's just like, it's a preview.
This is that city builder on the back of a big turtle-looking fella.
It's more like a brontosaurus with weird spikes.
Yeah.
It's an onbu, and basically you live in a world that is being choked with poisons, some sort of spores. And you are like a people basically on the brink of extinction, and all of a sudden you're sort of wandering nomadically through the wastes of this world, and this creature wakes up from underground, thought to be entirely extinct, and you're like, the Onbu, cool, there's everyone on the Onbu, we're gonna live on the Onbu now. And you are basically like, hey, previous village elder's like, I'm kind of too old, but you're the leader now, so I'm going to teach you everything I know from a book about when we used to live places rather than being nomadic. And like, I think that's basically the plot of the tutorial. I don't know if that stuff happens if you're playing without the tutorial, but it was my first couple of games and I wanted the backup there.
Yeah, that is my experience too. I don't know if that's different if you skip it.
And it's, so initially it's like, okay, well, people need somewhere to live, so build like housing or very basic housing. Then start making ways of processing things like food. Are we going to start farming? Are we going to be growing mushrooms? And are we researching various different types of food stuff? Because as we travel through the world, or as the Onbu travels through the world, it's going to wander through hotter or colder climates. So some stuff isn't going to survive. And if you don't have a way of growing both, say, cactus, which will store water, and say beets, which survive in much colder areas, then you need to be, and obviously in the colder areas you can just use your, I think they call them sky wells, but they look like weird stills, and it's like, you're not going to have water in an area, so if you want to keep growing crops, and a crop that grows in this sort of weather, you're going to need to be growing something else alongside it, which means you're going to need more farms, because you can't grow two crops on the same farm, even if they're like fairly next to each other. And even like the design of farms is fairly like freeform. You plonk a thing in the middle of it, and then there are all these spaces around it that you can choose to start farming, designating as farming spots. But that will all be one crop. And then there's the whole, like, do I put more people on this? Do I put less people on it so that I can send one of my very few people over to do, like, a slightly different job? Meanwhile, you're obviously trying to do all the researching stuff of the person who blows the horn to try and give Onbu commands, who may or may not even listen to them.
Depends how much he likes you.
So far, the Onbu has been willing to accept my requests, like, oh, we're about to pass through a big poisonous area. Could you run through that rather than walking so that we get through as fast as possible?
It's in everyone's interest for you to do that.
Right. And the Onbu does get poisoned, so obviously it could do that, but obviously eventually Onbu gets sleepy. So usually, if possible, it will find like those, what is it, like cotton trees?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the thing is. The trees that do the big fluffy cottony bits, and it'll just like find a field of that stuff and it'll just lie down in it. So be like, have a little nap, I'm gonna have a little sleepy here. You can do like a whole thing of setting up a winch near its bum to do dung collection, which you can then turn into compost, which helps with all your farming stuff. So I played 2 runs of this. The first one I played on the stream, I misunderstood a couple of the mechanics for slightly too long, and that meant that basically almost the entire area on the back of Onbu was absolutely covered in poisoned stuff that I could not get rid of because there was just too much of it. And then there wasn't any space to do any farming, and that caused problems. The other one, I felt like I was doing really, really well. I got like a really long way into the game, most of the way through a lot of the different research trees, and all of a sudden I think we just had a whole thing of we'd gone into a different biome, and somebody died from something unexpected, which meant that we now had one slightly too few people, which meant that we weren't able to farm as much corn and cactus, and we didn't have any water, and the people who were still there were refusing to do any farming, so we went from like a population of nearly 30 to 2 who would not farm to save their lives, at which point I was like, well, fuck you, I'm just going to quit. Yeah. But yeah, second run went much better, kind of, and I got like better mechanics down, but it really did feel like it like turned on a dime on me, and I'm curious how close they think this is to completed. Like, is there going to be stuff that will help with that, or am I just really bad at the game? Because I'm only playing in like tutorial mode. It's like you get to a certain point and you will just drop into like novice gameplay level. I dread to think what this is like at harder levels. I guess that the Onbu is maybe less willing to listen to your commands and stuff. But since a lot of my commands are maybe have just a nice sit down, or could you run so we don't all get poisoned, including you? I had quite fun building a food trebuchet. It's like, we are through an area, and I can see the Onbu's got the rumblies in the tumbly. But there's like whole mechanics for, it would be really good if you could get some stuff out of the Onbu's gallbladder. You're gonna need to drill into the Onbu for that. It's like, hang on. We thought this species was extinct. We are on the brink of extinction, and you're talking like, oh yeah, we're just gonna draw some blood out of it for stuff. We're just gonna drill into its gallbladder for stuff. It will get upset and it won't trust us as much, but we will have achieved the things we want. There's these like spikes that grow out of its back, and like I get the impression that because if you click on them, it's like this is worth 100 stone. So it's like at some point you're going to tell me like I could just chop off spikes because the growth of this creature I live on is inconvenient to me. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I haven't got that far with it, but it feels like it could get.
That is definitely on the table.
No, it's on the Onbu. Maybe the table is also on the Onbu, and then the thing is on the... Yeah, I guess so. Fascinating game. I am glad I got to play it. I don't know if it's just balls hard and it's me, but like it feels like it is simultaneously too slow at like 1 speed to like have the decisions you need to make, and not giving you enough feedback that things are going wrong to play at a higher speed to mitigate there hasn't been much to do. Because there is, at single speed, there is a lot of, okay, well, you've told them to go and cut down just the oldest trees so that there will be a chance for more growth. But now you've got issues of various other kinds. And, it's a struggle, but I'm kind of enjoying it, and I will probably give it a bit more of a try.
I'm glad.
What about you? Have you played anything else?
I've not really played much else. You got anything else you want to talk about?
That's it then.
Well then, time for this.
Okay, now Tech Bros, we're going to have a little lesson about AI. Ooh.
Yeah, ooh.
Now, what do we use AI for?
Making cool toy robots.
That's a good way to do that. Okay, does anyone else have any ideas?
Solving hard math problems.
Yes. Okay, anyone else?
remotely operating machinery in dangerous environments.
Very good indeed. Okay. Anyone else? Doing paintings and writing stories and poetry and making all the films because of the not films, and I'm bored of no films no more, so I get more films because of the AI. No, that's bad. You sit on the naughty step. Come on. No, you can't take toys with you. On the naughty step. Remember, children, art and acting and writing and poetry, these are for people jobs. These are people jobs. We make the AI so that we don't have to do the boring jobs, the hard jobs, the jobs people don't want to do. And then we make the world a more beautiful place.
Yay!
Right, everyone. This strike's still going.
Yes, I have noticed that. I mean, we tried cutting the trees down, we set the sidewalk on fire, we tried setting up that large lens in a car park across the road being suspended by a cherry picker so it would just burn them with the sun, and it just doesn't seem to have done anything yet.
No, so I think we've got to find some ways to get around this strike action, because right now, no one's writing the films, no one's acting the films, no one's reviewing promoting the films. So I thought, can we do a last-minute pivot and take all of our projects we have in the works, or we want to be in the works, and make them technically not movies?
Right.
Will that get us around the strike? I've been workshopping.
Right. What have you got?
So what if we take one of our sort of movies and we just put it in theaters just as the audio description track? There's nothing on screen.
In the theaters?
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be in theaters, wherever we want to distribute it.
Right.
We just put the audio description track out, no visuals, and we say it's an audio drama.
Well, I mean, it feels more like something you'd put on Listenable, and since we have all of Listenable, we could probably put it on there.
I mean, maybe, yes. It's like, oh, yes,
it's a Listenable exclusive.
Yes, the next superhero movie is an audio drama.
Exactly.
Other ideas. This one we might need to use the streaming service. You know, they had that streaming program that sort of had a little bit of interactivity.
Oh, yeah,
remember the one?
Yes, but I mean that still seems quite a lot of work. Is there any way we could do that with less effort?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is like the technology exists for you interact with the pre-filmed thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we put our film on streaming services, and at some point you have to press one button once to progress to the next scene. It's like,
you have to press the button that makes it's the block point.
You must press the button.
Yes,
you are complicit.
You do it.
Or, even if there's no button in the film, just, that door needs opening. We just put a door on screen and be like, open the door. You open the door and you keep going. Now it's a video game.
Right.
And therefore, it's not a movie or a TV show, and we can get around the strikes.
There's some sort of boulder near some lava. How will we get past it? Press to punch.
Exactly. So as we got,
we're so strong.
We can turn movies into audio dramas. We can turn them into video games.
Yes.
I mean, I suppose we could just publish the script and go, it's a book.
I mean, I suppose that is how books work.
That is how books work, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So there you go. We're not movies or TV shows. We are audio dramas and video games and books. Therefore, we are exempt from the strike. I think that makes sense.
I think I would make you correct in that, absolutely.
And I think the striking workers will have no choice but to bow to our very big brains.
Yeah, I must say it's very clever of you. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
Well, we put one main thing in our eyes.
The main thing?
Yeah, we went to the theatre.
We did, we went to the theatre.
Yeah, you took me out on a date night.
Oh.
We went to see Bleak Expectations.
We did.
Which is a stage play adaptation of a early 2000s BBC Radio 4 audio drama.
Yes.
Is that a good way to describe it?
It's a comedy radio drama in the style of the novels of Charles Dickens. Obviously, the name itself is a jammed together of Bleak Expectations.
Yeah.
I was going to say a portmanteau, but it's
no,
two
I was
words
going to say
still.
the same. It's a
kind of a jamming
amalgamation.
Amalgam, yes.
Yes. So the basic plot it's following the story of
Philip Bin.
Philip Bin, the eventual inventor of the bin, and his back and forth issues with his nemesis, Mr. Gently Benevolent. If you hadn't guessed, the name's a bit of a misnomer. He's neither gentle nor benevolent.
What about his father's other business partner, Mr. Skinflint Parsimonious?
Who is
most generous of men.
The most generous of men. It is this stage show was about 2 hours, 2.5, including interval. It was very high energy and very high pace.
Yes.
Never chaotically so. It was always very deliberate.
Yes.
But I am very impressed at that cast's ability to play very exaggerated to the back of the room as quickly and consistently as they do.
Yes.
Very, very funny show.
Yeah. But it was basically a compressed version of the first season of the radio show.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if I think the original was 6 episodes, and this is at least 4 episodes worth of content.
Yeah. The way I would say this is paced is like you've got 4 sort of mini stories that are built as part of one large story.
Yes.
So like each half of the show is about 50% this period of life, about 50% this period of life.
Yes, so you have obviously the happy childhood of growing up in a wealthy house in a wealthy part of London with wealthy parents. Father goes off to go and exploit some part of the world. Dies at the point when he was just about to consider paying the workers and giving them a proportion of the profits and so forth. And he may have accidentally possibly been pushed off and definitely accidentally fell off a cliff and then been eaten by penguins.
Look, I'm not going to say it's similar to another media property, but there sure was a series of events which were all unfortunate.
Yes.
It sure was a series of events that were unfortunate.
And it was a group of children who fell from like a very wealthy, well-to-do family and then ended up on a series of...
Under the care of terrible people and...
Very terrible people.
Bumping into a very evil person who's trying to get their inheritance from them. I made the comparison. Very tonally different.
Yes.
Yes. I think the best way to explain the pacing or the tone of this, and you were describing this to our friends the other day, was oh yay, okay, let's go skip and be happy in the corridor, yay, and then a few minutes later,
2 scenes later,
okay, let's go be sad in the corridor. It's very silly, very exaggerated. I was going to say fourth wall breaks, but no, things that are a little anachronistic to the time period it's set in.
Yeah.
It doesn't overuse them, I don't think. It dots them around a bit, but it plays around with the tropes of the, sort of Dickensian setting it's making use of. There was a man who kept swapping between wigs and hats that was... incredibly impressive.
The judge and 3 members of the jury, and not just changing hats, but like
facial expressions,
the full body change between
full
each
affectation
of the
changes very fast.
And for a character that was just or each of those members of the jury being like 2 or 3 words, usually guilty.
It's a very fun show that works on its own. It works on its own as a complete story that. If you didn't know this was based on a radio show that went on for several more seasons, you wouldn't finish this going, I feel like I only got part of a story. It very much tells a complete standalone story, and I think it was a fantastic night at the theatre. Yeah,
it's running for I think another probably about a week and a half now, if you're listening to this on release day. So if you fancy, I only knew it happened because Ellen from Outside Extra talked about it on a Pikmin stream recently. I was like, what? The thing?
Yeah.
And then I found out the tickets weren't the usual price of tickets in central London, which I appreciated, because
we
I don't usually go to the theatre for the reason I have just assumed I will be priced out of this. I'm not classy.
The first night you looked at was a bit pricey, but
the first night I looked at was like 90 quid to even sit on the ground floor.
But then you found another night where it's like, oh, we can have like second row middle seats.
Right.
Which was perfect, because front row we'd have been drowned by the fog machine. Second row was perfect.
Yeah, it was good, and I think the cast did an amazing job. There was just amazing use of space, because it was largely a single set. Like, there were a couple of bits that were changed here and there. I like the fact that, like, the gravestones that popped up a couple of times when they were supposed to be in the churchyard just, like, flipped up out of the stage.
Yeah, it's, for a thing that was largely, here is a room in a house, they did a very good job of, like, lighting changes to make you not think about the fact that set still exists there. The rotating section, the third time it rotated had something different on the back of it in a way that was amusing when it happened. A lot of interesting technical things around the stage that sort of catch you off guard when they first happen.
Yeah. And if you happen to be seated a decent amount of time before the show starts, it is a fascinating set to sort of peer around.
Yeah.
I had a good time, enjoyed the thing,
and
and
a very good
I'm
time.
glad we took a punt on trying a thing.
It was a very, very nice theatre experience, and one I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, have you watched anything else?
Not really. It's not been a watched heavy week. That was the main. That was the main one.
It was.
Yeah. Well then, time for this.
Hey Laura,
Yes.
we've got a new sponsor.
Tell me about a new sponsor.
Well, do you enjoy media?
I do enjoy media.
Do you enjoy media that maybe has, like, a lot going on in it?
I mean, I do.
Maybe something that has spanned decades.
Well, I mean, look, I know there's classic examples like Zelda. I like how all the games, I mean, up until Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, sort of fit a bit of a chronology. That sort of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Like, but also, like, if you include things like the manga and that TV series they started writing, because I believe the scripts are out there in some cases.
I suppose so.
There's been, like, audio stuff, and there was that fan film that was kind of, but also not, but maybe kind of part of the canon.
Okay,
and then, there was the cereal boxes, and technically those told the story as well.
I mean, technically those are all parts of that the wider story, but, like, they're not connected though, right?
But what if you could find out that they were somehow?
Tell me more.
This week's sponsor is for fuck's sake.
What?
This week's sponsor is timeline.ai.lol.net.
Oh no, I see where we're going.
You just tell it what the thing is and enter all the stuff, and it'll bullshit you a timeline.
Oh god, I'm looking at the drop-down menu options here. It doesn't even have to be within the same, like, series. I could put in Kirby and SpongeBob. How are they the same universe?
Oh, that sure is a lot of AO3. That is a lot of AO3.
That sure is. Skimming. Kirby's up on the land, SpongeBob's under the water. That one was not that hard to make into one unified timeline, I guess.
It didn't need that many snails.
It really didn't.
And not even Gary. None of them was Gary.
Well, I guess we know how those universes connect now.
Well, that's my eyes. My eyes. Timeline.ai.lol.net. Don't. Just don't. But if you want, is there. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been working on some money-saving techniques for us.
Right.
Because money we save is money in our pockets.
Yeah.
So, I was looking through the books and going, hey, like, what do we spend money on here?
Right.
And one of the things is designing characters. Characters. Characters have faces. We gotta pay someone to make the face.
Right.
And I thought
because we tried it with AI and it came out kind of weird.
Unsettling was the word they used.
That was the word, yeah. And
deeply unsettling.
And all our experiments with the cameras on the last generation of consoles that, you could put your face on, like, your baseball players or whatever in the game, and that didn't work out well either. So.
No, but I think technology's moved on a little, and I think we might be, cycling back around. So I was trying to think how I've got an idea, but let me backtrack. I've been thinking of ways to sell this idea because we gotta make this seem like it's a good thing we're introducing. We're not just trying to get out of doing work. So here's what I propose.
Right.
We put out an app that's like. You don't want your kids that are too young playing Call of Duty? Well, just download this app and scan your face, and we'll definitely work out what your age is based on that. It's definitely not purely an excuse for us to scan your face with the cameras on your new fancy smartphone.
Right, yeah, and they all do that now.
Yeah, they all do that. They all do the mapping stuff and steal your face for use on a character in our games. Because, look, someone might see an NPC and go, that looks an awful lot like me. They can't prove it.
Right.
It's just a coincidence.
And, if we, move the sliders and stuff, the skeleton stuff underneath is going to be different anyway, even if it's their skin mapped over the top of it.
Well, maybe we just slip something in the EULA that says we're allowed to use the face scanning data, because no one fucking reads those things.
Exactly. You throw that even in on bottom of page 1. People still won't even read that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we can use it in multiple ways. We do use it as is, but also, we mix and match.
Well, look, here's my thought. If we do get rumbled and they work out what we're doing, I think we could really easily PR spin it as actually a positive. Someone realizes, I recognize my own face on a character, you stole my likeness. We go,
you have just a boring basic face.
Oh, no, I was going to go more complimentary. I was going to go, you won a secret competition you didn't know about, and won the chance to be in the game. That's what this is.
Yeah,
you're in the game because it's you won.
It's all the crimson method you drank. That's made you forget that you won this.
Yeah. So, look, even if we get caught out, I think we can weasel our way out of this with some. You make it sound like a positive.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So. What have you put in your ears?
I put a couple of bits of music in my ears, a couple of new bits of music I hadn't heard.
New music?
Yeah.
Nicky.
I say new music. One of them is a new version, a cover of a song I'd heard before, but it was I hadn't heard that cover before.
Okay.
So I listened to No Children Scar by Sad Snack. So No Children is a song by the Mountain Goats. You might know this from TikTok because it's the song that has I am drowning, there is no sign of land, that people sort of do the little thing where they pretend to drown going down hand in hand. It is quite an intense song about bitter feelings in the end of a relationship between two people. Of it is this. The original is this song about this relationship is ending, and I've reached a point where I actively want you not to be happy, and that's quite a complicated thing to wrestle with. Covered as a ska track with a sort of a pretty punk, slightly shouty punk vocal line to it, but very knees up, bouncy ska sound. The contrast between the dark heavy lyrics, the bouncy danceable ska beat, and the angry punk vocal delivery made for a fascinatingly discordant clash.
That sounds wild.
Yeah, it is. I really enjoy it in that sense of how do I put this? It feels like I'm really angry. I'm going to paint how angry I am in neon colors. It's that sort of vibe. It's. I like it a lot. And the other one I listened to was a track called IDGAF, which stands for I Don't Give a Fuck, by Shining. It is a sort of fast-paced electronic rock track about just sort of partying in the apocalypse, which is a genre that I didn't realize that was a genre, but the more I think about it, that's a genre, and when it crops up, I tend to really enjoy it. There's bits of this track that remind me of My Chemical Romance's Na Na Na. Not necessarily, like, one-to-one, but mainly in terms of, like, lyrically, the way it uses this sort of palette of neon rebellion and explosion imagery. Mm-hmm. That sort of, like, I'm gonna have a party at the end of the world while everything's going to shit. We're gonna rebel in neon paint. It's fun.
It's a big neon paint week.
It's been a what if my anger was painted in neon kind of music week. But yeah, both of them were fun in different ways. IDGAF was definitely more consistent in its theming, whereas No Children's Scar was, we're gonna clash and you're gonna be okay with it. What about you? What did you listen to this week?
Well, I am in a bunch of Magnus Archives fan groups because I enjoy the ridiculous content. I am excited for the Magnus Protocol, whenever the fuck that is going to happen. And also, I hope that they will send me in similar directions. And somebody did this week. They're talking about a podcast called Tartarus, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. I found it on Podcast Guru, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
There's an app. Yeah, Podcast Guru. It's my app. It's the one people recommended. I don't know if it's good. Yeah, it's very. I suppose it is a bit like the first season of Magnus Archives. Of like, you don't really know what's going on, but less of a. I don't know how it's connected, because the stories all do run very much one after the other. It's not an anthology, despite the fact that then, as things goes on, it's talking more about various things. It's more like an alternate version of the SCP Foundation. What if there were horrors beyond knowing, but maybe they existed as creatures that are kept in this secret Antarctic base surrounded by landmines, just in case the universe itself unravels? Maybe?
Cool.
Or maybe not. But also it's very secretive, and even the person in charge maybe doesn't know all of the things. There are mentions of a head office. It's quite short. You can probably listen to, I think, all of it that exists so far in about 6 hours, maybe, right now. Yeah, I am coming up on the last episode. Their last update was November 2022, so... But it does seem like they tend to do stuff in August, September, so... If new stuff is coming, it might be coming this year, who knows? But I don't know yet. But, yeah, it's about this person who... she lives in the shadow of her sister, who could be an astronaut and all sorts of other things, and she ended up as a lecturer in a university, talking about the, I guess it's xenobiology, like possible alien biology, what we could expect, and how we basically have to assume that there is alien life in the universe because, statistically, it doesn't make sense that we are alone. And it would be ridiculous to think otherwise. But life can take on all manner of different forms, and we shouldn't necessarily expect them to look anything like us, behave anything like us, or even be understandable by us. So it's... but she then loses her job, because apparently tenure doesn't mean shit in the modern age. I don't really know how university do.
Tenure is, in theory, essentially a job for life. You've done job good for a long time. Your job is now secure.
But it seemed like capitalism has capitalism that. I don't know if that is actually the truth. But that is the situation that we are in this story. There seems to be shadowy, possibly, organisations manipulating this whole thing, and our main character gets to the facility. Like, a lot of the first episode is how she ends up getting there and why. And then the next episode is just the journey there and the initial getting involved. Then it's the third episode is a little bit of a tour, and the fourth episode is something happen. good luck. Almost immediately that she gets there, like, she finds out that she can't say her own name aloud. It just comes out like static. And she is assigned a new name that she does not like, but the director insists upon it. Which, given that the name of the facility is Tartarus, and she is given the name Persephone, there's all manner of things that could be said, especially in a world where the things are kept underground, and they are of a possible demonic persuasion. And season 2, I'm like halfway through episode 7, or episode 7 overall, the third episode of season 2. There might be some much larger questions about these creatures and the nature of the world that this all exists in. Yeah, I am fascinated, and I guess I will find out some answers, and while getting more within the next hour and a half of show listen.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you listened to anything else?
No, that's about it for me.
Well then.
Time for this.
You, want some of that?
Yeah.
Did you know? Yeah. That, you know, like you'll have a delivery, yeah?
Yeah.
And you'll be like sitting there, yeah?
Yeah.
And you'll get one of them notifications, yeah? And it's like, we have delivered your parcel. It was like, you know, as you weren't available.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you know, I've been sat here in this, you know, cloud of smoke, eating a pot noodle and watching whatever cartoon this is. Some weird...
I have definitely not been unavailable at any point.
I mean, I might check out occasionally a little bit, but I have been physically here. And,
if the doorbell went, I'd have known, probably.
I'm easily startled, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, prepared to, you know, answer the door. And, you know, they're like, well, we weren't in, so we left it in your safe space, you know.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm like, how did you get it into the cupboard in my bedroom? And I realised that that's not what they meant, but, you know...
Yeah.
You know, I check outside and it's on the doorstep, right?
Yeah.
So, what I think is going on, yeah... A courier is 4-dimensional.
You don't say.
I do, yeah.
I mean, I guess you did, yeah.
Right, because, like, otherwise, I would have, you know, heard them coming up the stairs, right? I would have, like, no, you know, because, you know, there's the stairs to my flat, yeah?
Yeah.
And then, like, I'd have heard the doorbell.
Yeah.
Well, you know, turns out, 4-dimensional courier, non-Euclidean doorbell.
I mean, it is an explanation.
Exactly, right? You ring that doorbell once, doesn't ring in this dimension, especially, you know, if you yourself are a 4-dimensional being. So, you know, you gotta ring it a few times.
Yeah.
Enough that it wraps around and reaches our dimension.
Yeah.
And then that's when I get the door.
I mean, makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your turn to put the kettle on, mate.
Oh, I could get out for that. Ugh.
Yeah.
Meow. Oh, welcome along. Please take a box or a high perch. There are shelves around the room for high perching. Thank you for coming today. Though you are on my territory, so I will hiss at you all later. But for now, thank you for coming. And today you are in the first step to getting more snacks. We all want more snacks. So, the easiest way I have noticed that when the humans feel that they have done us wrong, then they will give us more snackies. So, what we need to do is engineer more ways to get the humans to feel bad, so they give us more snackies. Very reasonable. And so, first of all, try always being right by their feet. Yeah, they think they have stepped over you, but they have not stepped over you. Oh, even if they did step over you, and you slipped out from under their foot at the last minute, if you make the right squealing noise, then they will assume they stepped on you, and they will have to give you more snackies. Exactly, that's an excellent demonstration there. Thank you, assistant. Now, if you could all practice your rails. And then there is some mannequin legs here for you to rub up against and practice making them trip and fall and stumble. Next is blending in with the cushions, so when they sit down on the sofa, they will sit on you. Obviously, you make yourself look fluffier than you are, so that they do touch you, but you have plenty of time to scoot before the butt touches you fully, and then they have to give you more snackies. And okay, if you could practice the screech from the being sat on. No, it's more. Exactly. You have to make it sound like you have been injured. Exactly. Yes, clumsy human, silly human. And then if you can all practice doing the face that makes it look like you are sad, which just means just slightly tilt your head up so that it looks like the mouth is more droopy, even though that is just the shape of our mouths. Remember, chin up, droopy face, I'm sad now. Needs snackies. Excellent work there. Yes, I think we are all making good progress. And we will see you next week. And we will do the weigh-in to see who has gained new weight because of the good snackies. Well done, everybody. Good luck in your quests. Now get off.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Virtual Justice Warriors.
Virtual Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Larry. Right, Barry. How you doing?
Oh, a bit gassy, mate. You doing alright?
Oh, I'm alright. I've just been seeing some misinformation floating around. I've been trying my best to combat,
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, well, I've been seeing... You seen much about... there's that strike going on at the moment, the writers and the actors and stuff. It's a sports strike. But I've seen some confusion because there are some movie stars in America that are currently making movies.
Right.
That are, acting in films, are writing scripts, etc. Not for any of the struck studios, but for some other studios. And I've seen some sort of confusion of people not really sure what's going on, they're making movies during the strike, they're being a scab.
Right.
And it's kind of important to to dispel that. I've seen some people
so I'm saying that there is a target to these strikes and reasons, and certain people are being asked for certain things, and that is the reason for this action.
So that it's the people being angry at people they've seen as crossing the picket line spreads faster than the people in SAG trying to spread the message. But the basic version is that one of the indie studios, I think it's A24, has been doing some filming. And the reason they're allowed to do that is because they went to SAG and were like, what were your terms you were seeking from all the big studios? What were all the deal points you were trying to get them to agree to? If we agree to all those points, if we agree to all the things you're trying to, that you want them all to agree to, will you let us keep making films? And SAG's stance on that is, of course, if you do all of the things that we're asking... If you give all of the things we're striking for, then sure, you can make movies. In the same way that if, the big movie studios agree to that same list of points, they can also get back to making movies. And very specifically...
I'm sure they don't want to be standing out in there in the searing sun, marching up and down the streets with no shade.
Yeah.
They would much rather be, actually having some negotiations or even, some fair consideration for the points they are, trying to ask in a terribly unfair system.
And it's specifically important to get this out there that these people aren't being scabs, and it's not only it's a neutral that they're making these things, but it's actively a positive, and get that messaging out there because it shows the big studios. It is possible to agree to all our terms and still afford to make movies.
Can do it.
Exactly. If they can afford to do it, you can afford to do it too. These are not unreasonable terms. People can afford to make movies under them.
Yeah.
But it also is really important for, there are wonderful things like there is a fund that's available right now for helping financially support the strike, so that people in tough financial situations in the union can have some financial support.
Yeah.
But what allowing studios that agree to the interim agreement to film does is it means that some people in desperate need of work can go and work on those projects without having broken the strike.
Yeah, no, I imagine many of them are considerably freer at the moment for all that.
Yeah, specifically a lot of stage crew, back of house crew, a lot of those on-set crew jobs. And every one of them that can be working on a project that's agreed to the strike, the union's terms, is one fewer person who might need financial support from that fund, and that means that strike fund can last longer and weather, the long term.
Yeah, because they're not going to get 7-figure cash injections into that every week, and
exactly.
It's any. Like people with Patreons will say, it's as much appreciated as the big payments are. What keeps you very often going is regular small amounts from a large number of people.
Or in this case, a fewer people needing to dip into the fund will make the run last longer.
Well, that as well, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I've seen some misinformation, but it's good that there are studios that are, not crossing the picket line and able to be making things, because these terms are very, it's very possible to agree to them and make films.
Yeah, and I am glad that, the big companies being shown up, and I hope that more people will, cotton on to that, to understand that is the situation.
Yeah, just be on the lookout for it, because I've seen a lot of people accusing certain people of being scabs, and it's no, they're actively doing what the union has told them is a good idea to do.
Yeah,
under union agreed terms.
Yeah, and you can go on the Writers Guild of America website. You can go on the SAG-AFTRA website, and their demands and their requirements and the rules of the strike are listed in very clear and simple terms, and indeed what determines a break of those terms.
Exactly.
And you can't just say, for example, go to the union and go, can I please have permission to keep making my film because I'm special?
Exactly. A lot of people have misunderstood that that's what's happening, but it's
they're just happening, but not these people.
Yeah, they're not. The union isn't saying yes to those people.
Oh no.
Oh,
where's it going, mate?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good on, mate. Good on. Right, I think I'm going to pop the kettle on.
Oh, sounds good.
Nice. So, Laura,
Yes?
you do things, and people might want to find those things. Where can they find the things that you do?
I do stuff, and you can find it pretty much everywhere at Laura K. Buzz. Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon, Laura K. Buzz on all the things. If you check out my social media over on, say, Twitter or Mastodon or Threads or wherever, this week I put up a post which I'll be sharing a bit because Me and My Dysphoria Monster got nominated for the 2023 Diverse Book Awards.
Hell yeah.
In the picture book category, which is exciting. But we also are in the Reader's Choice category, which is a category that you can vote on. And if you think that book, is valuable in some way, you'd like to go, hey, that's a book I think more people should know about.
Yeah.
Go find the link on my socials and maybe vote for it in the Reader's Choice category for the Diverse Book Awards 2023. What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Me, I've got a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find the t-shirts I designed, the things I write, the music I do, and pretty much everything else I do in various locations. You can help support me and the things I do at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify a 76-hour work week and all manner of other things, and help me do and keep going in the exactly that. That's all the things. Laura,
Yeah?
you sing us out, please, darling.
Until next time, be a stranger.